Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 49th session of the regular webinar series organized by IEEE Malabar Subsection in association with IEEE Malabar Hub and IETE Kozhikode Subcenter. Through engaging, edifying, and constructive discussions on multidimensional topics, we cater to widen horizons and equip students with progress, empowerment, exposure, and insights. Before we get started, I request all participants to ensure that your audio and video is disabled during the presentation to save data and for the smooth conduct of our program. Any queries can be informed through the chat window, and those will be discussed towards the end of the session. Without any further ado, let's begin. Earning your degree or stepping out of the college are not just academic milestones, but also the beginning of a transition from secure, comfortable, and non-threatening life of a student to an extremely demanding, competitive, and stressed life of a corporate job. Joining us today to talk about a very relevant topic, campus to corporate, things to know, is Mr. Vipin Davis, Project Manager R&D, Siemens Healthineers, Bangalore. Having worked in various roles such as Senior Engineer, Module Lead, Scrum Master, Product Owner, etc., for over a period of 11 years in several domains, Mr. Vipin's exposure and wisdom regarding the fast-paced corporate world is remarkable. It is our pleasure and honor to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming and inviting our speaker of the day, Mr. Vipin Davis, to lead the much-awaited session. Sir, please.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
And I hope you can see the presentation as well.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the confirmation. So thanks for the nice introduction and thanks for the opportunity as well. So let's get into the session. So good evening to everyone and welcome to the talk. So let's begin and already, yeah, there was an introduction about me and thanks for that again. And just want to walk through it again. So myself, Vipin Davis, and I'm currently working as project manager with Siemens Healthineers Research and Development Center in Bangalore. So predominantly we are associated with the medical imaging business. And in my association with Siemens, predominantly over the last 8 years, I've been also associated with the recruitment process and the organization. And that is the main reason why I'm giving this talk today. And that is the reason why this topic is also relevant here. So to start with, just want to set the context here. So what's basically this talk about? So as always, like when we get into any sort of sessions, it is very important that we get the our expectations right. So what could be the key takeaways for you from this session? So you must be wondering about it. So let's make that very clear in the beginning. So to begin with, first of all, I would like to make it clear what this session is not about. So in this session, first of all, I'm not going to give away any sort of secret formula, which you just apply and then you get yourself a job. And the reason I'm not going to give away any secret formula is simply because there are none. So there are no such secret formulas. Also, I'm not going to talk about any, trending technology or latest technology which is available in the market, which you learn, you take a short-term course or something, and then immediately you'll end up with a job, because that is also not the case. The technology out in the market is like on one hand changes so often that on a daily basis you can see newer technologies coming up, and at the same time there are also the traditional technologies available, like the good old programming languages like Java, C Sharp, even C++ and C are very much in demand today, and it is very hard to find good developers or expert developers who have absolute expertise using these programming languages. So there is, I mean, this is only a small building block of the entire food chain, so to say. So technology alone is not important, and that's the reason why I'm not going to get into that part as well. Neither am I going to talk about any sort of products or process which is predominant in the market, like you work in a certain domain or on a certain product that is like going to fetch you easy jobs or relevant jobs. So that's also not the case, because the products are also, I mean, you can never say that one product is important than the other. The products are, again, every product has its own relevance and its own importance out there in the market, and comes with its own challenges. So it's not about any of this. So you must be wondering, like, what it is about then. So basically, this is where I want to tell you, it's mainly about you, because you are the one who are going to find a job, you are the one who are going to do the job. So it all begins with you, and you are the one who are going to make or break this job, this entire journey, so to say. And my attempt here in this talk today would be mainly focused on that. So to give you certain pointers or certain thought provoking certain triggers which you can use so that you can find the right job which suits you, and you can make it as a nice journey which you can enjoy traveling. And this all this thoughts that I'm going to share would be based on my own observation and my own experience, which I've got through my association with Siemens over past couple of years. So to begin with, the first thing that I would like to share here is what are the major aspects of a successful career. So when do you say that a career is successful? So according to me, there are two paths which you mainly need to consider. So the first is you have to find the right job. And once you have found the right job, the second most important thing to do is to do the job right. So these are the two things, two major aspects of a career. Now, the reason I want to emphasize on this factor is because over the last couple of years, I have seen many young professionals doing the wrong choice, and the price they have to pay for that. So most of the times what happens is they finish their graduation, they finish their academics, and then they are so eager and enthusiastic that they just accept the first offer that comes their way. And once they get this first offer, they just accept it, and then they try to make it the right job for them. Some of them, they do succeed in that, but most often I've seen that they do not. And when you do not succeed in making the job right to you, what happens is basically you end up getting frustrated and you are unhappy, you're not satisfied. And at a certain point in time, you might even start thinking of quitting it, and probably even end up quitting it. And why, what could be the reasons why you are not simply able to make this right? It simply could be because it's not meant for you. You do not possess the right skill set to that job, to do that job. Or it could also be because you simply don't like it. You are not enjoying doing that. So this is the reason why it is very important that whenever you pick a job, you pick the right job. So having said that, how do you decide whether a job is right or not for you? So because most of you might be thinking, unless you do the job, how do you figure it out? Yeah, partially it is correct, but at the same time, there are certain tips, tricks that you can apply, which also upfront will tell you, like based on the nature of a certain job, you can also decide whether it is a right job for you or not. And to do that, what you simply need to do is look into yourself. Like you can look into your past. So past would mean that you can look into your childhood, your basically your school days, your academics, your college days, etc. So there, during those times, I mean, even in the academics, you can see what are the things that you like the most, which subject you probably would have liked some subjects better than the other. You would have hated some subjects also. And even other than academics, you would have enjoyed, you would have been participating in a lot of extracurricular activities. Some of you might be in sports, some in arts, some in organizing events, etc., etc. So there could be many things which you can look into. And this all things gives you certain pointers. It tells you like what are the things that you inherently like to do, and also what are your inherent skills. And also it's important that you look into your present, because for people, I mean, their likes and dislikes does not remain constant over a period of time, right? I mean, certain things you would have liked as a kid may not excite you as much even now. So this is also something which you have to see. so over a period of time, and it also tells you a lot about your nature. For some people, your likings does not change often, but for some, you get bored easily and your likings keep changing often. So this is also something, I mean, I'm not saying anything is good or bad, it's just your own inherent skills or nature that you need to understand about yourself. And also it is equally important that you envision your future. So from a like after a couple of years from now, how do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself? What is the most important thing for you? For some of you, it might be financial security. Like you need a good basis. You might have a lot of, I mean, you might have your own liabilities or your own responsibilities which you need to fulfill, and financial security might be the most important part of you. For some it may not be. For some it might be a very good work life balance. So you want to work, but at the same time you want to pursue your passion, your other things, and you want to strike that balance. For some of you, it may not, it might be something else, like doing a very remarkable career, I mean, getting famous in your own field of operation. So your priorities might be different. So this is how so it is very important that you look your future, you envision your future, and you make it clear what is that you want to. So now, when I said you just have to look into your past, present, future, etc., it is much easier said than done, I understand. And most of the times, you might need some professional support also to do that. And that is the reason why you might see a lot of career guidance centers popping around you. So who promise you to, reveal this information about yourself and help you choose the right career. So here, I mean, that is definitely an option. You can take professional support, but at the same time there are a lot of other tools and techniques that are available free of cost, of course, which also you can use, which will help you do the same. And here, I mean, there are many tools and technology tools and tips out there which you can make use. What I have shared here, which you see, are some of the most commonly used ones across industry, and many experts use this. So the first one you see here is called Johari window, which was invented by two psychologists, a psychologist by the name Joseph and Harrington. So hence the name Joe and Harry window. So this is one such tool which will help you. And also on the right hand side, what you see is something called, it's another process called the SWOT analysis. Here SWOT stands for your strengths, your weakness, opportunities and threats. So these are two methods or tools which you can apply to do a self introspection, so to say. And by using this, you yourself will understand, like, what are your strengths, what are your weakness, what are your aspirations, what are your inherent skills, etc. And I'm not getting into too many details of how exactly to apply this. For that, I believe Google would be a better teacher than me. So you can get into, you can find more details out there in Google. So now since you have a good understanding about your inherent skills, what are your passions, what keeps you interesting, etc. So basically you have set the pitch. So now it's time for you to see to answer three more questions with which you will be very clear on to decide what kind of job you're going to do, etc. So the three questions basically which you need to answer is why, where, and what. Why? Why do you want to do a certain job? Where means where do you want to do it? And what? What exactly do you want to do there? So these are the three questions which, if you can successfully answer, you will have a pretty good clarity on what is the right thing for you to do. So let's begin with the why. So first of all, you need to answer, like, you end up in a certain place, right? So most of you here, I believe, are from IT background, or you're seeking some jobs in the software industry. So what brings you here? Is it passion? So this is something which you need to ask yourself and get an answer to. So is it passion towards the profession, towards software development? If so, then you can make it an art. So that is as simple as that. Then you would be enjoying every moment of your work day, and you simply wouldn't bother about any other things, and you can simply make it an art. And there are abundant examples around us, if you see. So something that you see on the screen already, like you might have seen bar attendants around you, right? I mean, they do a simple job of serving a drink, but there are some guys out there who make that an extraordinary art. And there is another example down below. You can see that's a simple traffic cop. Now, how you most of you might be wondering, like, how can a traffic cop's job be interesting? But you have examples right in front of you where they make that also even interesting. So this is what I meant by passion. So when you are passionate towards a job, you will really enjoy it. And even in programming world, if you see, if I have to quote some examples out there, you can see many of the most prominent or most effective programs around there. One such one predominant example would be Linux. So most of you might be knowing about Linux, and a recent survey from Stack Overflow says that 83% of developers out there prefer Linux over Windows. And if you know, Linux is an open source software. So this is something which was created by a bunch of guys. I mean, it was not made as a product. So it was out of passion that they created it. And if you want more examples, you simply have to log into Google Play Store and check. There you can see millions of free applications which people out there just created out of curiosity or out of passion, out of interest, and put it out there for people to use. So and also the quality of such products most of the times are quite high. So this is very so hence the reason I said you have to really look if the reason why you are here is because of passion. If it's not passion, you also have to see if it is because of a purpose or a cause. So many of them, even though driven not driven by passion, might be there for a reason, for a cause. They might want to help people in need, sort of thing. When it comes to when you want to map it into a software industry, you might want to build applications which really makes people's life easier. So some typical examples would be in the ongoing COVID situation here. So you might have seen on a daily basis there are guys coming out with applications, or even organizations for that matter coming out with applications which helps you track the simple things like the hospital beds, how many beds are available, what is ambulance status, like even for elderly people, for them to sit at home and then use certain apps and then get some support if they need, etc. So these guys work for a cause. So that could be another reason why you are planning to do a certain job. And most often it also could be monetary. And as a matter of fact, this is the most common reason, to be very honest. And there is nothing wrong in it. That's a very good reason for you to do a work. But at the same time, you also have to see if it is only monetary, if it is only financial needs that is driving you to do the job. The reason why I'm insisting on this point is because if that is the case, then beyond a certain point in time you may not be able to sustain it simply because you don't enjoy the job. So there won't be any reason for you to get up in the morning and then get yourself to the office, because it's not the job, it's not the excitement of what you're going to do is taking you there. It is only based on the returns, the money that you're going to get out of it. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, it is always better that you strike a fine balance among all these various aspects. That is the point when you would be really able to enjoy a particular job. Now, having spoken about why you're planning to do a certain job, it's also important to decide where you want to do it. And now, especially when we are talking about the software industry, you have many options out there. And before getting into the options, you should also understand, like, especially when we are talking about the where part, you should understand that where basically means the workspace, and the workspace differs based on a few factors. And the factors could be: one, the culture of the place; two, the content, what you're going to do there; and then the career opportunities that you have there, like the growth opportunities, etc. And also the compensation, like the money that you're going to get paid for whatever you're doing. So this simply we call it as the 4 C's of any workplace. So before you decide where you want to do, a simple thing is like you can see what how do the 4 C's map to your aspirations. So to begin with, most of you would prefer to work in a multinational corporation, which we normally call as an MNC, because they are very attractive and stuff. So let's look at the 4 C's of an MNC. So to begin with, the culture. So usually in an MNC, you can, as you would rightly expect, it's a very professional environment out there. So all the discussions, all the meetings, all the interactions that is done in an MNC is usually of high professional standard, including your attire, everything out there. So your workplace, everything will be like very professional. There will be a very clear set hierarchy over there. So you will have a particular reporting manager, and then his manager, etc., etc., and you know whom to talk to for what. There is a set guidelines for everything. But at the same time, when it comes to personal relationships, it is very less there. I wouldn't say it is non-existent. There are some, but it is very less, because it's a very professional environment and there is very less room for you to build a sort of personal relationship. So it will be very mechanical. And also when it comes to the accountability and responsibility, again, it will not be extreme. It will be only moderate amount of accountability and responsibility which will be there on you, because as an MNC, they would always have backup plans, safety nets in place, so that if even if you fail, the impact would be rather less, because there will be somebody else who is already doing the risk mitigation and taking care of things. And from a content point of view, if you see, most of the MNCs would be working on big, large, long-term projects. Hence, and also there will be like bigger teams working on it. So the content point of view, if you see, it will be very much, constant. And the technologies, the tools that you will be using also would be more orthodox. You cannot expect the latest cutting-edge technologies to be used, because they are basically very less risk taking. They will be like in a place where they won't be able to take much of a risk because of their contracts, etc. So this will be the nature of the content there. From a career point of view also, if you see, there will be, I mean, I won't say there's an absolute amount of job security there, but there will be a certain high amount of job security. You will not be easily thrown out, because there will be like, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a good amount of safety net in place, a backup mechanism in place, which will take care of certain things. But at the same time, from a growth point of view also, if you see, since it's a large organization, larger teams means there will be like a lot of other competing colleagues that you might be having. Hence the growth also, if you see, from one position to another, may not be like very fast. It will be rather gradual, and there it will be more of a steady growth that you can expect there. And from a compensation point of view also, you can expect a fair compensation there. There will be market standards defined across MNCs, and you will be paid accordingly, no matter how well you do or how bad you do. So there will be a certain amount of minimum guarantee about the compensation as well. Now, if not startup, what are the other options that you have? Sorry, if not the MNCs, what are the other options do you have? The next option is obviously a startup. Now, most of you might have heard about startups. Now, startups is the trend. So in startups, the culture is entirely different. So here, if you see, it will be a very friendly, least formal culture environment over there. So there won't be any hierarchies. Anybody can talk to anyone. So basically, getting things done is the most important point there. So nobody really cares like whom you talk to, who's responsible for what, etc. So you all are in that together, and then you have to get the work done. And also from a like a working environment, like working time, your login time, logout time, etc. If you see in a startup, you may not have a well defined ones. You have to just work until the work gets done. And also from an accountability and responsibility point of view, if you see, it will be extreme. It will be very high, because the teams are definitely smaller. So you will be responsible for all the things that you do. You won't be having any backup or much of a risk mitigation in place. And if so basically the room for error is very less, so to say. So obviously the accountability, the responsibility which is on you is very high. And usually, from a content point of view speaking, usually a startup companies, they make use of the latest technologies, cutting edge technologies available out there in the market. They are very innovative, very aggressive in nature, very much risk taking. Hence the reason why they come up with sometimes very drastic solutions as well. Now, from a career point of view, if you see, because of the very nature of a startup, you can the last thing you can expect from a startup is job security. So there, like it's a make or break situation, right? So you do well, of course, your job is secure. If you're not doing well, then yeah, there won't be much of a hope. So from a job security point of view, I wouldn't say a startup provides you an ample amount of job security. But at the same time, if you look at the growth opportunities in a startup, this could be immense. So in a startup, it purely depends upon your performance. So it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, what roles you have played in the past, etc., etc. It doesn't matter at all. You perform well in no matter like, or in a very, in no time at all, you can like scale bigger heights there. And there are many examples around us, I mean, which we already know about, like young entrepreneurs or young professionals joining startups and are really getting into very high positions. Now, from a compensation point of view, also, if you want to see in a startup, it again could be extreme. There could be startups which won't simply be able to provide you very high salaries, but there could be startups which simply, if you possess the right skills, could pay you any amount of money. They simply don't bargain. They just provide you whatever you ask for. So this again could be in the extremes of the spectrum. So having said about startup, what other options do you have? Obviously, freelancing. Here, it's simple. You don't work for anybody. You work for yourself. You are the boss, and hence there is no point in talking about the culture, content, etc. Because you set the culture, you set the context, you define the content. Everything is up to you. But and this comes with absolute amount of freedom. You don't have any boss over there, but anything comes with certain amount of complications, as always. And here also there are certain amount of complications from a career point of view. If you see, this again comes with its own challenges. So when you say freelancing, it's not so easy that anybody would simply approach you and start giving you or start outsourcing you any job. You have to first build a reputation of your own. You have to showcase some amount of quality work that you have already done. Unless you do that, it's not easy that customers approach you. So this is something which you might face like a struggle in the beginning. So that is there. And from a compensation point of view also, if you see, in freelancing, of course there is no salary concept, so you're not going to have any sort of steady income. So you're not going to get a paycheck at the end of your month. But at the same time, like if you're doing quality job, and if you're successful enough to build a reputation of your own, then the compensation that you get, the paycheck that you get for each project that you do, could be enormous. So it could be very attractive as well. So this is again another option that you have. Now, since we spoke about the basic pillars, like what are the basic the 4 C's that you need to consider before you decide where you want to work upon. Now, since we all know that, we can also, like, elaborate these 4 C's a little bit, and then you can find some pointers. So some of these pointers I've tried to put here, which you can see, like the work-life balance, the freedom, compensation, culture, content, risk appetite, growth, etc. And you personally, you would want to rate your aspirations in each of this. I mean, of course, you're free to add your own pointers there, which you feel is important for you. So this is only for a demonstration purpose that I put it here. So what you can do is, like, you can start scaling this. You can put you can start rating yourself, like from your aspirations point of view, like what amount of work life balance do you need, what amount of freedom do you need, and you can keep this handy for you. And then whenever you get an offer from anywhere, from any sort of organization, you simply have to map it against what they have to offer. And if your mapping is in according to what they have to offer, then the choice is easy. Like, you simply have to decide whether you have to accept the offer or not. So these sort of things, this sort of systematic approach makes your life very simple. Like, it helps you to decide whether you're going to the right place or not. Now, having said about the why part, like why you want to do a certain job in the in a certain industry, and then you have decided like where you want to do it. Now you also have an option of also have to decide basically what you want to do. So before that, you have to weigh out your options. So when it comes to what you want to do in a certain industry, there are many options out here. So here, henceforth, I shall refer to the options as focal points here. So basically, to get the context right. So what are the focal points that is available? So in any industry, if you take, there are different focal points, and broadly that can be classified into technology, which a particular industry, a particular organization use, the domain in which they work, the kind of functional skills that you ought to possess, which will help you do this job properly, and also the interpersonal skills, or rather the soft skills that, as we generally say, that you need to possess, which will enable you to be a successful person in this particular job. Now, to begin with, what is technology? So technology basically refers to the hands-on experience of a particular information technology, which is being used. Like it could be a certain programming language, certain tools, certain like a certain database that they are using, etc. So basically anything under this umbrella can be classified as technology. Now, how can you be technically competent? For you to be technically competent, you have to obviously be updated with the latest programming languages, latest things that is happening in the technical world out there. You have to constantly, participate, or I mean, out of your job, you have to go. You have to be like a part of many such forums where they do such technical discussions, etc. Many papers are getting published. You have to keep reading about that and all. So this is how you can be technically competent. Now, if your focus is predominantly on technology, what does that mean? So basically, like in the context of an industry or an organization, what technology means? That what technology means here is nothing but the tool which basically gets you lets you achieve the goal. So that is what a technology is. So you can use a number of technology as is shown in the slide over here. So on the right hand side, if you see, basically in both the pictures, what the farmer is trying to do is the same. The only difference is the technology that is used, the tool that is using is different. So above he is using a primitive tool, and the below picture he's using a much more advanced modern tool. But then, is that the end? If you look at the bigger picture of farming, is that the end? Because here the farmer is only using this tool to plow and prepare the land. But then that's not the end of the whole process, right? You have to decide what are you going to grow there, what is the crop that you're going to grow there, so that only then it yields some result. So basically technology is something like I mean a tool which enables you to set the goal, and what to achieve the goal. So what is the goal? So this is where the next focal point comes in. So a goal is usually defined by the domain in which a certain organization or company is working. So what do you mean by a domain? A domain could be any refers to the I mean it refers to the industry or the activity sector in which a company does the business. So it could be like, for example, an aerospace industry. That could be a domain in itself. It could be even automobile domain. It could be mining. It could be health, infrastructure. So there are a number of such domain available. Now, we already discussed about how to get expertise in technology. We should also get expertise on domain. So how do we get these expertise? So to get the domain expertise, what we need to do is we have to first understand what is the business and what are the market needs. And what are the things that actually drives the market. You also have to envision the future, like where how is it getting involved, and at times you can also create the future. There are certain times certain products which is being launched into the market, which basically nobody needed, but once it got launched and in a certain amount of time, it becomes a necessity. So this is how you have to envision the future. So in order to do that, I mean, it takes a lot of effort. You have to constantly again read about things. You have to be in constant interaction with your stakeholders, with your partners out in the market. You have to participate in various forums again. So all these things. So basically the domain expertise is what helps you define what the goal is. So basically, the people who are expert in a certain domain are the ones who come with visionary products, so to say, and they are the ones who define the goals. So once the goal is set, you have already identified the technology earlier, and then using that right set of technology, you can achieve this goal. So now it's not a comparison that I want to bring out here, like technology versus domain, but then at a certain point in time you have to see like what is the correlation. So basically technology and domain always complement each other, but at the same time, personally my opinion is domain is something which is a little bit more important than technology, because always there could be n number of technologies which can help you achieve the same goal, but the goal is what drives the business and basically funds the usage of any technology or any organization. So I would say I would give a little bit of predominance for domain always. Now, having spoken about the technology and the domain, we also have to look a little bit about ourselves, like how do we fit in. So we also need to, like, I mean, we also need to, like, fit into a certain role which our organization has to offer. So this is where our functional skills come into picture. So if you see, if you take into consideration a typical software industry, so to say, so there will be many roles that you might have heard of. Like for example, the most important, the role would be of a developer that most of you might be thinking about. Then there is also testing, which most of you might have heard about. But I'm not sure how much of you might have heard about IT infrastructure support, quality professionals, security professionals, config management guys, or even content writers. I'm not sure how many might be aware about it, or even willingly seeking any of these opportunities. So here also I want to get into give you some perspectives about the importance of this. So first of all, let me give you an example. If you take a typical football team, a soccer team, so to say, usually if you take any soccer team and you and if I ask you like which are the most famous players from that particular team, the answers would most often be some famous strikers from the team, the players who usually play as the forward and score the goals. But then are they the only important guys in the team? Can they, I mean, of course, end of the day you see them as the ones who are scoring the goals and getting all the limelight, all the attraction, but all the attention. But then could they have won the game alone without any assistance from others? Simple thing, a simple example is, even if you have a team of 10 star players and you don't have a goalkeeper, the team is not even qualified. They cannot even come to the ground. So that is how I want to get the perspective. So any role, every role in a particular team is important. So only then the team can function as one and then achieve the goals. So some of the examples that I have quoted over here, like the development, testing, IT infrastructure, etc., everything is equally important, because imagine you have an organization or a team with only developers. Who's going to ensure that the product is bug free? So without ensuring the product is bug free and there is no quality assurance, nobody is going to buy your product. So there is no point in developing. So you need testers out there, quality testers, who can ensure you can use various tools and technologies and ensure that your product is bug free. Now coming to IT infrastructure, if the IT infrastructure, imagine the internet is down in your organization, even for a minute, the entire organization comes to a halt. It is the IT infrastructure guys who keeps it running. Similarly, quality, security. Imagine there is a security breach in your organization. Recent times we are hearing a lot about such security breaches, which is happening. So such security breaches could put in question the entire integrity of the organization. So that is equally important. So the point I'm trying to make here is, do not have the perspective that only developers developers are important, and you also want to be a developer only because of that. So it's important that you have to find the right fit. Are you the right developer? So this is where you have to start mapping your inherent skills to each functional role. So for this also, there has been numerous studies that has been done, researches that has been done, and papers that has been published, which helps you, which guides you to map your soft skills, your interpersonal skills into various functional roles. So some examples I have quoted here, like for example, if you have good communication skills, or rather, if you want to become a good software programmer, what are the main most important skill that you need to possess? So here, just I want to take one example. So if you look at the presentation over there, you can see the most important soft skill that a computer programmer must possess is nothing but communication skill. So might be a surprise for some of you. And the reason why it is communication skill is simply because a computer programmer always works in a team. Most of the time he works in a team. And when they're working in a team, it's very important that he has good communication skills. And here, when I say communication skills, I am not just hinting at the proficiency in English language. So that is not the only important part. You could use any language you're comfortable with. But the point here is that you should be in a position where you can very effectively, thoroughly put across the idea, the thoughts that you have. So that is the most important part here. So it's nothing, it's not analytical or problem solving skills, it is not ability to work independently, and nothing. It is communication skill, which is the most important thing for a computer programmer. So this is how you can map your soft skills, your inherent skills, into the functional roles in an organization. And since now you also understand that each functional role has its own importance, so please, you have to make sure that you are finding the right fit based on your inherent skills. Now, since we have already spoken about all that, I also want to tell you that, but take enough time to make your decision. So once the decision is made, give it enough time to sink in. So you might sometimes what happens is, like, you might have given enough thought, and then you made a decision, and then you chose a certain career path, a certain job you might land up in. But then you might again start having doubts in the beginning. But all I can request is, give it some time. And it's not like eternity, I mean, it's not like forever, but then give it some time, and enough amount of time for you to figure out, like, is it working out well for you or not. And do not keep changing it very often, because, like, it's for the right reason why you say that it is building your career. So finding a job is only the first step. So once you find the job, and so from that point onwards, you're building your career. So when you're building your career, it's very important that you have the foundation correct. So, and to have the foundation correct, you might think that, okay, you're not making enough progress right in the beginning. You have to take a lot of trainings, you have to take a lot of learnings, you're not able to showcase your skills properly. But it is fine, it is okay. I mean, all these learnings that you do, all this experience that you gather, is making a foundation strong. So once you have a strong foundation, then onwards, you can start building further. And with a strong foundation, of course, the career that you're going to build on top of it is definitely going to last. And like I said in the beginning, don't make the mistake of accepting the first offer that you ever get. I mean, it's not that I'm not also saying that you should deny the first offer that you get. That's not the point here. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, the industry is huge, and there is always in demand for skilled professionals out there. So the main thing that you need to do is only to make your to enhance your skills, to improve your skills. So once you have the right skill sets, and once you're able to showcase them, then I guarantee that there are enough jobs available out there. And like, no matter how many engineers they graduate every year, the industry still is in high demand of good professionals out there. So take your time before making a decision. Analyze yourself, your inherent skills, your functional skills, etc., and then decide uh, your career. So with that, I would like to end the conversation here, and it's time for questions if you have any. So it's open now.
Thank you, sir, for such a comprehensive session. That was both intriguing and inspiring and motivating at the same time. And now I guess all of us have a better clarity upon how to introspect on ourselves regarding our choice of the future career and life. So like as Vipin sir already said, dear participants, we shall now move on to the Q&A session. We are looking forward to your active participation here. You can either unmute or type down your queries in the comment box.
Okay, if there are no further queries for now, I can leave behind my contact details here. So feel free to reach out to me via email or via phone. If you have any further queries, I'm always happy to help. And I want to wish you all the best for your future. All of you have a happy campus to corporate transition, and thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And on behalf of IEEE Malabar subsection, IEEE Malabar Hub, and IETE Kozhikode subsection, I would like to extend our wholehearted gratitude for being here with us and helping us all go through a session that was very engaging and insightful. And we're fortunate to have been able to spend some quality time with you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
And last but not the least, let me also take this opportunity to place on record our hearty gratitude to all attendees for their spirited participation throughout the webinar. And it is your involvement that keeps this webinar series going on. A feedback form has been shared in the chat box now. You may go through it and fill it up with your responses. Once again, thank you all for stopping by and joining with us. Much now until we meet again the next time. This webinar is over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vipin.
Thank you, sir.